Outcome of laboratory session. Able to determine the aggregate impact value AIV, which indicates the toughness of coarse aggregates in accordance with the relevant standard. Objective: to determine the aggregate impact value AIV of coarse aggregate samples in accordance with BS 812 Part 112, 1990. The aggregate samples are first sieved on 14 mm and 10 mm sieves. Only the aggregates passing 14 mm and retain on 10 mm sieves are used. The aggregates are washed if they appear to contain excessive dust. The aggregates are then dried in an oven at 105 ±5 degrees for not more than 4 hours and subsequently cooled to room temperature prior to testing. The aggregates are filled into the measuring cylinder to overflowing and tamped 25 times using the rounded end of the tamping rod from a height of about 50 mm above the sample. Surplus aggregates are removed by rolling action of the tamping rod across the top of the measuring cylinder. The net mass of the aggregate in the measuring cylinder is measured and the same mass of aggregate is used in the second test specimen. The whole test specimen is then transferred from the measuring cylinder into the steel cup and the sample is tamped 25 times using the rounded end of the tamping rod. The cup is then fixed securely to the base of the impact machine. Then, the test specimen is subjected to 15 times of impact by dropping the hammer from a height of 380 ±5 mm from the top surface of the sample at drop interval of not less than 1 second. The crushed sample is removed from the steel cup by holding the cup over a clean tray and hammering the outside of the cup with rubber mallets so as to enable the sample to fall freely into the tray. any fine particles adhering to the surface of the hammer, and the inside of the cup is removed by means of the stiff bristle brush. Then, their tray and the aggregate are weighed, and the mass of the aggregate M1 is recorded to the nearest 0.1 grams. The whole of the sample is then sieved, passing 2.36 mm sieve for 1 minute, and the masses of sample passing and retained on the sieve are recorded to the nearest 0.1 grams as M2 and M3, respectively. If the total mass M2 plus M3 differs from the initial mass M1 by more than 1 gram, the sample is discarded and a new sample is tested. The AIV is calculated based on AIV equals M2 divide M1 multiple by 100 to 1 decimal place. The test is repeated on the second sample from the same aggregate, and the mean of the two results is calculated to the nearest whole number. The mean is reported as the aggregate impact value AIV, unless if the individual results differ by more than 0.15 times the mean value. In the latter case, 2 further samples are tested, and the median of the 4 samples is reported as the AIV. Results and discussion. Discuss the suitability of the tested aggregate samples for concrete construction application based on the AIV.